Hello, hello, hello. Long time no see. So it has been a while since I've sat in front of a camera. Not really a while, but it's been like a little over, well, it's been definitely over a week because I was sick. So with my schedule, it's a little difficult for me to do a lot of pre-filming and stuff. And so when I'm like out for commission, that means I'm out for commission. I'm not really doing a lot of reading. I'm not doing editing. I'm not doing any film stuff, nothing like that. Absolutely none of that. So that's why I have not really been as present. I have not caught up on comments. I highly doubt I'm going to catch up on any comments that are going to come my way or that have come my way in the past like couple of weeks because it's just been hectic on my end. And so, yeah, but I did want to talk a little bit about something that has happened in the midst of me being sick in the past week. We have a slight win over book bans. So, of course, this was widespread news at my job. Also, it was shared by one of my lovely patrons, Kathleen. Thank you so much for sharing this with all of us. A state has officially banned book bans, which is like, it's a big deal. It's a big deal because, as y'all know, with everything that I've been doing on this channel for the past few years, talking about book banning and book challenging and just highlighting different things that are occurring, what states are doing, how organizations are moving in terms of book banning and book challenging. This is a big deal for a state to introduce into legislation the fact that public libraries and school libraries can get in, I don't want to say in trouble, but can get into some financial trouble for removing or banning books based off of religious and political beliefs. So, if you did not know, the state that introduced this is the state of Illinois, and it was signed by the governor, I believe, maybe it probably will be 7 or 8 days ago by the time that this video goes up, but around a week or so ago. So essentially what happens is when this bill goes into effect, what the bill is stating, and it doesn't go into effect, I believe, until January 1st. If I'm wrong on that date, please fact check me, but I read that it was January 1st. But the governor is asking everyone, or mandating that everyone does, is that they adopt the American Library Association's Bill of Rights, which essentially looks at whenever you're working within the framework of a library, what your customers, patrons, librarians, this is the Bill of Rights that we should be following in operating a library system. If that makes any bit of sense. I probably explained that so horribly, but I'll make sure that I link the Bill of Rights down below. One of the key features of this Bill of Rights is that nothing should be removed from the library or moved from library shelves because of partisan or doctrinal disapproval, meaning that based on your personal beliefs, your political beliefs, nothing should be removed from the shelves, which is why I always kind of say to people that, with the position that I'm in, there is I don't want to say a power imbalance because a power imbalance is not the right word. It's hard for me to tell people not to read a book, and this is why. Now, do I have the power to stop people from reading a book? That's to be debated. But because I am so used to the American Library Association Bill of Rights, it's how I operate as a librarian. It's how I've always operated as a librarian for the past 7 years that I've been a librarian. It is difficult for me to tell someone not to read a book, even if I have my own personal philosophy about it. I will tell people, like, this is why I'm not reading it. I can't control what you do because for me it's about accessibility. I don't want to run that fine line of engaging in any form of censorship. Now, is it really censorship for me to tell somebody on my channel don't read this book? I don't know. But that's where that mentality and attitude come from. All of that is in the American Library Association's Bill of Rights. What's interesting about it is that we are not supposed to engage in any form of like allowing how we feel, what we think, what we live by to influence decisions that we make regarding access to materials. So someone can come into the library and say, I want a book about, I don't know, Christianity. And let's say I am not a Christian, I'm Muslim. I cannot prevent someone from being able to check out those books or deny them access simply because we don't share the same religious beliefs. And so what the governor is essentially doing is saying that people should have fair and open access to anything that they want to have access to. While book banners are saying that they are protecting children, there are supporters, and like myself, who believe that you're actually preventing the very thing that we try to teach our children, which is to be able to think for themselves. And that is the hallmark of all of this, is that there are people who think that they're doing the best interest, what they're doing is in the best interest of children. But of course, we all know that I definitely and ultimately disagree with that. I think you can make the best decisions and choices in terms of your own children and what you think is inappropriate and what is appropriate for them to read, but to remove access from all people just because you as a single individual feel as though it is inappropriate is not right. And so the governor is taking the necessary I'm going to say necessary precautions, but he is taking the necessary steps, or he has taken the necessary steps to make sure that this does not happen. So one of the questions that I know I've seen is like, well, what are the repercussions for libraries and like public libraries and school libraries? Because this is essentially impacting public libraries and school libraries. What happens when they do not abide by this law? Well, they end up losing government funding, which is a huge thing. So we're kind of seeing like this almost reversal of a situation where before it was, in some places it still is, libraries are losing government funding when they refuse to remove books from their shelves. And now in the state of Illinois, we're seeing a implementation of removal of government funding if we engage in book banning and censorship, which I don't think the majority of librarians, I'm not saying that all of us are on the same page. I always say this because I think people have this misconception that all public librarians, all school librarians are in one consensus when it comes to access of information and not engaging in book banning and censorship. And that is as inaccurate as it can possibly be. There are librarians and teachers out there that would happily and openly engage with book banning and censorship because it aligns with their political and religious beliefs. And it's the simplest 1, 2, 3. But I think for the most part, a great majority of us do not want to engage. So I highly doubt that we're going to see any school libraries or public libraries as a whole trying to or attempting to break this law. I highly doubt that anybody's upset of the fact that funding will be on the table if they decide to engage in book banning and book challenging. It actually is just more stressful for us to be engaged in this stuff. The processing of having to have people fill out formal paperwork, having to put together a review panel, reviewing said book, and then coming with a decision, and everybody has to be on the same accord. It's a lot more work than what I think people think is going on in the background. Especially when you have these organizations that are essentially just giving people lists of books to just go to your library and challenge all of these books that are on their shelf because of X, Y, and Z. It's just easier for us when that is just not a process that's in place. But I did find it interesting that there's this kind of like swap in ideology a little bit about challenging of funding. And so basically, I think one of the quotes that I did see was saying that they won't be eligible for like grants and stuff like that, which is huge. I will say that it's very, very huge, especially for public libraries when it comes to like programming and wanting to do things for your community. Grants are a huge way to get those things. Now, I don't think that he would have jurisdiction for public libraries to go up against, like for national grants. I don't think he would have any say in that, but I'm sure that any money grant-wise that comes from the state itself would be off limits if they decided that they were going to engage in breaking this law. Now, I don't see this happening in any other state anytime too soon. I think Illinois is just kind of be like the first of its kind to do this. I definitely would see probably more blue states leading in this direction, but also you would have to come into like a huge consensus amongst your House and your Senate within the framework of your state to get something like this accomplished. And I think that we are in such a divisive period in history that I I don't know what the likelihood is of this passing in any other state. I think in a lot of states right now, even in my own state, we're seeing a lot of the like reverse, where we're battling and pushing back against laws that are putting librarians, both public and school, in a lot of danger, as opposed to supporting them and making sure that they feel safe in their communities. It's a lot of the reverse happening. So I'm not even sure, like, I'm so happy to see this, because it's like, for once I get to make a video about book banning and book challenging that's like ultimately positive. It's good news. It's positive news that we now have like government basically saying like, this has got to stop. Like, enough is enough. We're done with this. Like, this is getting ridiculous. If you don't want your child to read something, then don't let your child read it. Like, it's just as simple as 1, 2, 3. It's nice to see that, and I definitely consider this a win, and it's nice to be able to sit down and talk about something positive related to this topic, as opposed to just thinking about the next thing that's happening state by state that is just negatively impacting kids. Unfortunately, I don't know how much more of this good news that we're going to be getting in the future, but I'm hoping we do. Like, the hope is there, but I think the part of me that's like, being realistic, it just seems like it's gonna have to get worse before it gets better. But everything that's happened in the state of Illinois is just kind of like this bright light of hope. Like, you know, things can go in a better direction than this, and it's telling parents to be parents and to be accountable and responsible for your own children. It's telling librarians and reminding librarians it is not your job to engage in the political and religious perspectives that our community members have. We're here to serve everyone. That is our #1 priority, regardless of where they come from and their background, what they believe. Our job is to make sure that they have access to things that they need access to. That is our responsibility. That's why we're here. We're not here to pick sides. It's hard, I'm not gonna lie, because I do have my personal beliefs, my religious beliefs and my political beliefs outside of my job. It's very clear, if you watch me enough, you'll know exactly where I fall on a lot of different topics. But I have to be reminded that, you know, if I have someone who comes in and they have opposing political beliefs or religious beliefs of mine, I still serve them as a part of the community. And it is a skill that takes a lot of practice. It takes a lot of work. It's not easy to do, but your job is to serve all. And you have to keep that in mind. And so this is a very nice reminder to all of us that we're not to engage when it comes to providing services and access to materials for our patrons. None of this should be in play. Like, none of this, we don't need to be a part of any of this, unless I feel like, you know, we're speaking back against the fact that, no, we're here to serve everyone. But, and you know, picking sides and saying that you want to remove stuff from child is just kind of like, no, that's not what we're here for. That's not our job. That's not our responsibility. But I just, you know, it's nice to come back and sit down and like film my first video and it be like positive. It's like positive vibes, positive energy. I'm really, really loving this. But I will make sure, so I'm gonna link 2 things down below, at least 2 things. One, of course, a link to an article about Illinois doing this ban on book bans, which I love that. Ban on book bans. And then the second one that I will link down is the American Library Association's Bill of Rights, which I do, if you ever have any free time. It's a quick read. It's not like it's like a 40-page document. It's a quick read for you to just kind of see where the governor is thinking in terms of whenever he's making statements like, I want libraries to adopt the American Library Bill of Rights, which most libraries already do. I think it's just a nice reinforcement for him to say, if you're confused about any of this, just refer back to the American Library Association's Bill of Rights and you'll be fine. All right, y'all, let me know how you feel in the comments down below. It's good to be back in front of a camera again. It's been a hot minute. Get back into the filming mojo groove of things, you know. I'm super busy still. It's a super, super busy time for me at work, and so, you know, still balancing things, still balancing life, but it is nice to be sitting back in front of a camera now. As always, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more content from me, click the subscribe button and hit the bell for notifications. If you're looking for ways to support this channel via Amazon or Patreon, all the links will be down in the description box below, and I'll be back with another video soon. Bye.